It is fascinating as a person who studies religion and a person who studies Catholicism to see this happening. It doesn't happen a lot in the course of one's life, and even in the course of a 2,000-year church, it hasn't happened more than a couple hundred times. Gary Adler, Associate Professor of Sociology, Penn State University. I study the relationship between religion, government, politics, and popular culture. The process for selecting the next pope is called a conclave. There's really two parts to it. One is the part that really is beginning right now around the pope's funeral, and then just after it, when the cardinals from around the world, about 135 of them who are able to vote, will basically get to know each other. It's kind of like a social mixer. And then the conclave, which means with the key in Latin, is when they'll be locked in together and they'll have rounds of voting until they select the next pope. The next pope will come from one of 135 men, and there'll be some maybe debating discussions in the conclave, which we'll hear very little about historically. And then they'll take votes on pieces of paper, private votes that are dropped into an urn. And then if a pope is selected, one type of smoke comes up the chimney. If a pope is not selected, another type of smoke comes up the chimney. There'll be up to 4 votes a day. It could end on the first day. It could take a lot longer than that. It's really exciting. I recall the day that Francis was selected as pope. There's a delay. You see the smoke, you have excitement, but then there's a delay until you actually know who it is and until you actually know what they've picked as their name, because they get to pick their own papal name. There are some names that repeat through history, but this most recent pope selected a name that had never been used before, and now looking back over the 12 years of his papacy, we know that that name was incredibly significant. I don't know what the next name will be. If I did, I'd win the lottery. But the next name will give us a sense of who they see themselves as. Are they more of a pastor? Do they see themselves as instituting big changes in the church? Or maybe they're trying to point us back to an era of the early church. But the Pope, for centuries, was never known by Catholics. In this global age, in this media age, Francis really showed what it meant to be a Catholic. And what was really exciting for Catholics about that is that it wasn't just about rules, it wasn't just about beliefs, but it was primarily about moving out into the world and serving people. He had this terrific phrase where he said the Catholic Church should be a field hospital for those who are on the margins. Think about that symbol of a field hospital. A big tent, everybody's striving to heal people, everyone is welcome to come in, and there's a great equality in inviting the gifts of people to serve one another. I actually have 2 favorite memories of this Pope. The first is a selection of his name. No Pope had ever dared to take the name Francis before. It echoes for Catholics a saint who was known for rebuilding the church. But that saint rebuilt it not with mortar and bricks, but by going out to the margins, to the poor, the sick, and those who were excluded. That was an incredible memory to realize that, wow, this guy means to do church a little differently. My second favorite memory of the Pope was actually kind of a moment of intense uncertainty for the globe, and that was early days of the pandemic in 2020. There's an image of him in a completely empty St. Peter's Square, which in these coming days will be filled with thousands, tens of thousands of people, all alone, dressed in white, talking, using the communion that Catholics take as a symbol, and basically encouraging us forward to not live in fear, to embrace the uncertain, and to continue to work with each other. And that image of him, the light and the dark of St. Peter's Square, will stick with me forever. bunch of Catholic type stuff up there. I don't know if that's too high for you.